Luckily, my alien DNA makes me invulnerable to Secret Service bullets. Though that doesn't actually explain why they've let me stay in the Oval Office for the last 2 weeks.
Hello, and welcome to the Kongversation. I can't explain that either. I'm Chad McCanna.
Hey, here you go, man. Sorry. I'm Hyle Russell.
Why'd you hand me this lozenge?
Oh, sorry. You don't take a hit off that, man. I'm just.
Oh. Ooh, lemony.
I know, right? Ricola.
Welcome to the Kongversation. We should probably get through some due diligence. I don't know how to begin like that. You got me off my game, Russell.
Well, it is episode 420 of the Kongversation, so...
Oh, we're getting a little weird, huh?
And I apologize if you hear this bag crinkling. I do have a bit of the munchies, as one as often does when, sucking lozenges. So I'm going to be eating some Wheat Thins during this episode.
It is Hitler's birthday, after all.
Wheat Thins. That's a good thing, 'cause I got these Wheat Thins at the Holocaust Museum.
Mm-hmm. Oh, what? So this is episode 4. You got me totally discombobulated. I don't know why I'm trying to introduce this thing. This is your thing. We were supposed to do the Cranky Kong episode that people have been demanding.
And I switched it up. I switched it up because I realized this is season 4, episode 20. A.k.a. episode 420. So I was like, well, we can't do Cranky Kong. He wouldn't approve of that. Who would approve? Oh, I know. I know. Funky Kong. So, I'm
all right.
We
have to acknowledge every number. It's unfortunate that there aren't 69 weeks in a year, because that would have been the perfect episode for Scrap 69's. What do we call that? Silverbacker appearance.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I have been eating Wheat Thin, so I'm going to wash it down with some delicious Mountain Dew Baja Blast.
I was expecting I'm going to wash it down with some delicious marijuana.
No. Whoa. I don't know what you're implying there, Chad. I don't know what you're trying to imply.
Implying? I didn't imply anything. I was fairly explicit.
I mean, that's illegal in most states, Chad. Let's not be.
Is it most still?
It is most still, yes.
I thought we were at the point where it's at least medicinal.
No.
In 50% of really?
Yeah. But so it's just going to be lozenges for us for the entire episode. But that's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
But yes. Anyway,
it's for the best. Because reefer madness.
Yes, and we are upstanding citizens of the United States and of the world here on the Kongversation.
We are an upright citizens brigade.
That is, yes, we are the same kin as Amy Poehler. Mm-hmm. So,
in that we once went to the UCB and sat on a floor, and Bob Odenkirk tripped over us.
Bob Odenkirk didn't trip on us. David Cross looked like he was ready to murder us for sitting on the floor.
They told us to sit on the floor.
I know,
that
but
wasn't our decision.
He wasn't happy about it, but it wasn't our fault. God damn, David Cross. He was cross at us.
Yeah, go make more episodes of the Life and Times of Todd Margaret. I hear that's doing really well for you.
Yeah. Go. I don't know, go appear in Kimmy Schmidt season 2, which is something he did. So
yeah, David Cross, you're way more successful than us, but we're gonna keep shit talking you.
He looked at me kind of aggravated. It still pisses me off. Bob Odenkirk was nothing but a gentleman, which is why I love Better Call Saul, by the way.
Yes.
So yes, let's get to some due diligence. It's gonna be a loose episode because we're high on lozenges and we're high on life. So.
We are high on neither.
If you want to support this sterling podcasting and site webmastery, then support us on Patreon. That's at dkvine.com/Patreon. Throw us $1 a month if you want, and you'll get stickers.
We'll throw you stickers.
We'll throw them right at you. $2 a month gets you the Kongversation a day early and access to the DK Vinecraft server. It's what you're calling it now. It's good branding.
I portmanteaued that sucker.
What we do, we take words and we mangle them for our purposes. We stick Vine and Kong in any words we can.
I will not rest until everything is a very clever pun.
That's a good goal. I mean, that's a better goal than Hitler had.
Again with the Hitler.
It's episode 420. If we're not going to acknowledge the man, why even have it? It should be like hotels. You know, they skip the 13th floor. We should have just gone to episode 421 if we weren't going to bring up Adolf Hitler.
Is that only a hotel thing? Because at work, I actually work on the 13th floor, and I thought that was a little strange, but I guess it's only hotels?
I think it's only hotels, yeah.
Okay.
And maybe, like... but I think, like, buildings that are supposed to be evil, like the Gozer building in Ghostbusters, I think they're all 13th floors.
Ah, okay. That's really difficult for the construction team, but I can see the appeal.
Anyway, $5 gets you a live access to the Kongversation recording. You could have been a part of this right now, listening to us ad lib like this. You could have been in the glow of our brilliance live.
Yeah, we've got greater than or equal to 3 people listening to us live right now. You could have made it 4. Unless you're one of those greater than or equal to 3 people.
Right. But anyway, DK Vine Patreon, never been a better time to back us. So anyway, we also have the DK Vine hotline for the Kongversation. You can give us a call at 1-281-410-KONG. If you listened to last week's episode, you're probably scared away from doing it, but...
I think that if someone listens to last week's episode, they probably didn't tune into this one.
We really did squander that expanded audience from the Platonic interview. But, hey, what are you going to do? We'll lose audience.
We were trying to make DK Vine great again.
Again, yeah. Like 5 people called in with that, thinking that was so clever. Yeah.
But no, that's actually, I think that's the rallying cry of the Vote Perry movement.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Because...
it's partisan. That catchphrase.
Because DK Vine hasn't been great because Perry is not in our Hall of Fame. I don't know.
I think that's the implication. It's pretty clear to me.
Anyway, speaking of DK Vine, we have a forum, dkvine.com/forum. In this, the lead up to E3, I would highly recommend joining the forum because you definitely want to be amongst like-minded weirdos come the Electronic Entertainment Expo. Just discussing ukulele, discussing Sea of Thieves. It's the place to be. It is the place to be.
It's a lot of fun, especially being in there during the press conferences. I don't know where ukulele would show up because Nintendo's not doing one, so there probably won't be like an indie portion of a direct because there's no direct.
They're going to give a press conference in the restroom, the famed restroom that Nintendo of Japan employees piss in.
Oh yes, your number one hangout spot
and number 2
and number 2, indeed. But at least Sea of Thieves presumably will be on the Microsoft press conference, so that thread on the forum is going to be bonkers when that press conference is going down. They usually just it could be conkers. We don't know. But yeah, it's fun to like refresh, and there will be like 80 new posts.
Oh yeah,
in the thread.
E3. I heard it described once as a festival-like atmosphere on DK Vine, and it really is true. It's a week-long party, 24 hours a day. It's like a Lionel Richie song. You're gonna want to be there.
Yep. That's how you bring them in.
Subscribe to the Kongversation on iTunes if you prefer to listen to these things on iTunes. If you're there, give us a rating on iTunes.
With your Lionel Richie discography.
Hey. Fiesta forever, man. Follow DK Vine on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, and YouTube. If there's a third Viva Pinata game made by Rare, I really want it to be called Viva Pinata 3 Fiesta Forever. Anyway,
yeah, I can get behind that.
Yeah. Tell your friends about the Kongversation, and that's about it.
Yep. So, as we said, despite the fact that we are neither high on lozenges nor life, this train wreck of an episode is all about Funky Kong.
Yeah, I am high on lozenges right now. I've got them in my mouth. I've got them up my nose in various orifices. Everywhere a lozenge can get me high, it is getting me high right now.
You know, I suppose it's possible to overdose on lozenges. It is, any chemical. You can overdose on water. You know?
Yeah, that's true.
So
it's like people who take too much vitamin C. It's not good for you.
Yeah. So don't take too much vitamin C. Take too many lozenges, like Hyle. He's a role model for us all.
But you can never overdose on Funky Kong. So that's what we're here to discuss. This is our second character witness episode. Our first one was on Conquer the Squirrel, and it was kind of just a celebration of his life. And the DK Vine Hall of Fame voting ended yesterday. If you're listening to this episode, the Saturday it debuts. But so
we keep those results secret.
Yes, it's a sealed ballot, so we don't know who is going to be voted into the DK Vine Hall of Fame yet. But I mean,
yeah, we definitely don't look at the results as they're coming in.
No, we do. But you, I'm speaking you as in you at home. You, the
royal
character,
we.
you, you, whatever. But we, you, yeah. So anyway, Funky Kong might have gotten inducted in the DK Vine Hall of Fame, but I'm glad we're doing this the day after the Hall of Fame voting ended, so we can't influence the vote in any way. We're going to be talking about how great Funky Kong is, but, it's not going to influence the Hall of Fame this year. Maybe next year, assuming Funky doesn't get in this year. But
I don't think we should necessarily approach these character witnesses as celebrations, because I think it would be kind of cool to if there's a character who has kind of a complex. Well, Conquer, for example. You don't want everything in Conquer's life to be celebratory because there was a darker chapter. Perhaps there's one for Funky Kong if you really read between the lines, but I'm not alluding to anything. I'm just saying maybe something will kind of expose itself as we go through Funky's life and times.
That's Bumper the Badger who exposed himself.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. So and you're right, because if let's say Adolf Hitler is in #IDRB. #2, then
he's on the team of the fighting Hitlers.
Yeah. Then
there's Space Hitler, there's Old West Hitler, there's World War II Hitler, of course.
There's Biker Hitler.
Biker Hitler is great.
Cowboy Hitler, construction
there's the
worker.
Indian Hitler.
Yeah.
They got really lazy with those toward the end. It was like it started out strong, and then it's like, see what you're doing.
It's fun to stay at the AUSCH. Oh, okay.
Oh
no!
You should have abandoned that thread long ago.
I abandoned it before I finished, and that's what counts.
Wow.
No, but if we did do it in season 97, if we did character witness Adolf Hitler, it couldn't be a celebration of the man's life because he was a vile monster. But
I think that's the point that you were trying to get to.
Yes, but Funky Kong, I think it's going to be mostly positive, but we're going to examine all the
Funky
facts.
Kong, probably better than Hitler.
We should actually sell this. We should give those bumper stickers out with the Patreon. Anyway, so we're going to examine every aspect of his life, and we'll determine at the end celebration or condemnation.
Don't turn this into a game show.
Hey, that's how you were introduced to the DKU in a game show, my friend. So
yeah, and afterwards we'll play weird, complicated puzzle games with Funky Kong.
All right, the life of Funky Kong. I'm opening the book. So
it was a creaky book.
Okay, I thought that was just like, I don't know, your corpse like exhuming gases. Like what if Chad McCanna had died 5 minutes ago and I didn't realize it? It's like Human Bender.
Yeah. Woo! Funky Kong.
So we don't know much about the backstory of Funky Kong, like where Funky was before Donkey Kong Country. We can figure a few things out based on clues from in-game. But this is just mostly speculative fanon. But when has that ever stopped us, right?
Yeah.
So Donkey and Candy and Funky, they seem to be of the same age. Maybe Swanky, but he's more of a wild card. But it's presumed by us that they all kind of grew up around the same time together in the same community, whatever.
Yeah, well, they seem to be about the same age. There's definitely a half generational thing going on. Diddy, Dixie, Tiny, maybe even Chunky kind of they seem to be on the same level, whereas there's the next rung up, which is, I wouldn't say is a full generation, but that's Donkey, Candy, Funky, Swanky.
The Silver Age of the Kongs. Yeah.
Sure.
So, it's assumed that, yes, Diddy is probably Donkey Kong's best friend, but he had more of a underling role as he was kind of like the kid who just hung around somebody who he idolized, and that grew into a deep, trusting partnership. But I would say,
I think what you're describing is Diddy Kong.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
But
okay. I thought you were talking about Funky.
No. I would argue that Funky was Donkey Kong's best friend before Diddy, and I'm sure they don't. I'm sure they wouldn't, actually like have a graph that says, okay, Funky, according to this, you are no longer my best friend. Diddy has earned the right. That's not the way it works. But I would say that Funky could conceivably be Donkey Kong's his best bud, his bro. Not somebody he goes on adventures with per se, but somebody who he grew up with and loves hanging out with.
Well, I'm glad you brought this up because Funky and Diddy got into a fight over who would be Donkey's best man in my erotic fan fiction.
Really? What was the name of this erotic fan fiction, Chad?
Oh, don't put me on the spot.
Yes, and?
That's not how improv works.
That's the way they taught me at the Upright Citizens. Okay. We know that Funky and Candy and Donkey seem to have sort of a love triangle going on. Have you noticed this, Chad?
I think that Funky might just be kind of an overly masochistic jerk in the first game. He makes a lot of lewd comments about Candy Kong.
He doesn't it's not like overtly lewd. He says he would give surfing lessons to Candy.
Anytime.
I'll
give surfing lessons to her anytime. Hey, I feel like he in Donkey Kong Country, and perhaps he grew out of this in a year's time, but he seems, or maybe 2 years time. He seems like the kind of character that would catcall,
like a construction worker.
Or a laid-back surfing dude.
Or a Native American, or a biker.
All our favorite Kongs.
Honestly, I kind of wish Rare had kept going and just introduced more and more Kongs that were just completely one note, so we could have had...
Well, we know Redneck Kong was right around the corner.
I know. That way we could have had a full set of Village People Kongs. That would have been fantastic. Fabulous, even. I don't know. I see your point. He was definitely... Funky Kong started out as kind of just a one-note joke character, as kind of Candy did. Cranky kind of subverted it just a bit because he had the pedigree of being the original arcade Donkey Kong, so there's a whole lot going on with that character, but they're essentially just bitchy old man, 90s surfing, parody, and isn't it weird that we have a gorilla who's a blonde bombshell, And really, it's interesting looking up the history of 90s surfing archetypes. That whole culture didn't hit the UK until after it already kind of cycled out here in the States. So
even then, Funky was a little out of his own time.
No. What I'm saying is, in 1994, it would have been more current than it was here. Funky Kong, the way we viewed him, he was already kind of like a relic by
That's what I mean, yeah.
But when Rare devised him, that was actually a thing in the UK.
All right.
So and there still are surfer dudes. I'm not saying that's something that's gone, but it's not as prevalent in the culture as it was in the early 90s when it was you had all sorts of I don't know what it was. I remember there was the movie Surf Ninjas because ninjas were popular at the same time.
Yeah.
So
of course you had little ninjas, you had three ninjas.
It all stemmed from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which itself was coming. I mean, martial arts movies of the 70s, were very popular, and that extended into the 80s, but then Ninja Turtles really made ninja entertainment popular with children. But I digress.
While we're on the subject of talking about UK discrepancies, those are the Hero Turtles.
Yes, I'm sorry, because ninja implied violence? So long as we call them heroes. Also, they couldn't show Michelangelo's nunchucks in the UK.
How does that work? How do you cut together an episode of the Ninja Turtles without showing? Because he's wearing them at all times.
Maybe I'm wrong. I know there's something involving nunchucks in the UK that it's considered like a violent weapon and compared to just fucking swords, but
maybe they just changed the sound effects when his nunchucks like make contact with a baddie.
Maybe they just gave him flashlights like off of E.T.
Right, yeah, he's just constantly winging around these two flashlights, which actually sound more dangerous than nunchucks.
And to be fair, though, they live in a sewer, so it would probably be more beneficial than the nunchucks in most situations.
I'm surprised that was not a quote-unquote improvement made to the Michael Bay Ninja Turtles. Michelangelo, because they like... Donatello's bow staff now has a knife on it. Michelangelo's nunchucks, they got flashlights.
And anyway, back to Funky Kong. Yeah, he started off kind of as a joke character, so I could see the point that he's maybe a little bit of a chauvinist, and he's like, "Oh, Candy Kong, gorilla with tits, yeah, man."
Chauvinist. That's the word I was looking. Yes, perfect. I think that's kind of how he was characterized early on.
Because he's just kind of a bimbo on the beach, Yep. But this interest in Candy Kong didn't really end in just the original Donkey Kong Country. Just as recently as the new Super Smash Bros. Game, Candy Kong's trophy states that both Donkey and Funky are interested in her.
Yeah, and that's... Hey, we regard the Smash Bros. Trophy descriptions as canon, except where they contradict actual in-game events. But this actually... kind of provides context and supports what we saw in the games.
Yeah. And I remember in Jungle Climber, like Funky and Candy were kind of paired together on the beach. Like it was, they were enjoying a relaxing vacation. Like all the Kongs were there, but Funky and Candy were especially close. So it is kind of interesting. Like is Candy Funky's true soulmate, or are Donkey and Candy really meant for each other, or is Funky and Candy the better match?
Or are Donkey and Candy even still dating? It's been a long time since that was last confirmed.
Yeah, but I think I mean, if they aren't, it wasn't too nasty of a breakup, considering Candy still appeared, through the Payon era. So
yeah, well, they only have so many people that they can interact with on the island, so you can't exactly burn your bridges.
Yeah. Otherwise, you can't cross that jungle because they have a lot of rope bridges.
Yeah, you know what? That's something that maybe at some point we should talk about the ape population of Donkey Kong Island. Is it just the Kongs we know? Presumably, there's a whole population of Kongs. Otherwise, how would they continue to persist?
No, there are, and we've seen them. Like in Mario Kart Double Dash, in the Waluigi Stadium audience, there are various random Kongs in there. They're the designs of Donkey Kong Jr. Granted, but they can't be Donkey Kong Jr. So Funky's history, though, as a businessman, an entrepreneur, he had Funky's flights in Donkey Kong Country, but in Donkey Kong Country Game Boy Color and Donkey Kong Country Game Boy Advance, he had something called Funky's Fishing. And in the Game Boy Advance game, that was basically like in the same building as Funky's Flights. So going off that logic, I would argue that he first started his business empire with renting boats for fishing and maybe rods.
It certainly has less overhead than opening an airport.
Right, exactly. So my thing is, I think Funky's Fishing was his first business, and he used the capital from that to build his first barrel biplane and open Funky's Flights.
Just like Richard Branson.
I remember Virgin Fishing. I mean, hugely profitable.
Right.
God, I really need to book my tickets to E3 soon because I got to get me on a Virgin flight.
You really love those Virgin flights. Like, you fly out of Dulles, right?
Yes, Dulles or Richmond, but usually Dulles.
So I guess there's just a really awesome Virgin terminal at Dulles, because I can never get on a Virgin flight, and you just sing their praises every time I see. Like I'm just getting out of this cramped tin can. I flew Spirit Airlines last year to E3.
Yeah,
that's how bad it was. And then you're marching it, stretching. Oh, that was heavenly. Virgin Airlines.
It's hard to get on Virgin because they always book up so fast because they're amazing.
Are they any more expensive?
No, not really. No, but Coach feels you have more legroom in Coach than you do in any of the other major airlines. So,
we heard all about Coach last week.
That's true. Yeah, I really hope he gets into the Hall of Fame. So yeah, he started his enterprise with Funky's Fishing, and he spun that into opening the very first Funky's Flights. And so already in Donkey Kong Country, we kind of have this paradox. We have this beach bum surfing bro who seems to own and operate an airline, a small airline, but still, like, he must have built this plane. He must, like, be the mechanic for this plane. It's never really gone into in much depth, but that depth would be then explored in the sequels.
I like that he's bucking the trope. And of course, we should point out that Donkey Kong Country Game Boy Advance didn't come out until other elements of Funky's character had been exposed, so it's a bit of a retcon, but canonically, he was running that business in 1994.
Yeah.
But it's really cool to see that he's basically subverting the slacker surfer stereotype.
Yeah, and I like that they took basically a one-dimensional joke character and they, throughout the course of the series, started adding layers to him. Mm-hmm. That's something I really enjoy about Rare. Yeah, there's inherent humor in all of this, but they actually do seem to care about progressing the characters, even if they don't realize it themselves. It's like they can't help themselves, but to add complexities. And I realize I sound like I'm blowing smoke out of my ass because I'm talking about Funky Kong, but compare Funky Kong to a vast majority of the Mario cast, which are kind of never changing. They're eternally the same. Which,
well, clearly that tells me that you're not familiar with Toadette. Because let me tell you, there's some development there.
You're gonna piss off people on the DK Vine forum because I know we have some Toadette heads on the DK Vine forum.
Is that a thing? There are Toadette fans?
I am making it a thing.
Yeah, it's our own personal Rule 34. As soon as you conceptualize it, thy will be done.
So, anyway, yeah, Funky Kong. There's really not much to talk about in the original Donkey Kong Country. He ran Funky's Flights, which is where he went when he wanted to go back to another world. It's really kind of weird how they boxed themselves into this structure when they didn't. It was kind of unnecessary. Like now you can just backtrack to worlds on your own, but. Yeah. Back then, I mean, it did add another challenge because if you started a world, you would have to progress until you either got to Funky or Candy. Candy, you could save your game. Funky, you could always then go back to the previous world and save your game at that Candy's save point. So there is strategy involved with it, which I appreciate, but it's kind of a dusty old relic of game design.
Yeah, and I think that the only reason that games were set up like that is because they, obviously the Super Nintendo is not going to do an automatic save on every single action like the Nintendo 64 was able to do with Banjo-Kazooie. But I don't know. There is something kind of nice about that, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, playing the Game Boy Advanced remakes, you always felt like you lost quite a bit of the challenge of the game because it really was okay, I've got to basically run this gauntlet of maybe 4 stages, up to 4 stages sometimes, before I could get to a Candy or a Funky and turn off the game at any point. So yeah.
The worst one that I can remember, I think, was probably Gorilla Glacier. I think there's the run before you get to either a Funky or a Candy is pretty harrowing because you've got don't you have Snow Barrel Blast, and you've got the Ice Cave?
You have the Blizzard trilogy, as I call them, just now for the first time ever. Where the snow starts to fall, and then you go into the slip slide ride, and then you come out, and the snow slowly fades.
Yes. And isn't that last one the one with Espresso?
Yes.
Yeah, it's not Ice Age Chant. No,
Ice
that's
Age
the
Alley.
song from the
No,
Ice Age Alley.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. So that is the worst of it. But I think that's it's a sense of accomplishment, because if you approach that if you get there and you die, you're not going to forget that you need to stock up on lives before you attempt it again.
It was always very, very harrowing when you finally got to a Kong helper on the map screen and it was Cranky Kong. You're like, fuck, this does me no good.
You know, I regret in my also because he would only give you hints for the first world. I was about to say I regret not reading through all of Cranky's dialogue options when I played the first DKC and my involuntary twitching, but then I remembered that. But although, I should have done that for DKC too. I really should have wrung all the content out of that game.
Yeah, but it would take forever because most of it's randomized, and there's like different layers to it in the original Donkey Kong Country. Like if you pressed the button, it skipped you ahead to the actual hints, but if you just let it roll, he would just go on and on with insults. So it was definitely it could be a slog trying to see all that dialogue. But anyway,
well, getting it back to Funky, would he do the same thing?
Not to the extent Cranky, because Cranky's whole shtick, his whole purpose is just to talk to you, where Funky actually had an in-game utility that you could utilize. But I think Funky had dramatically less dialogue than Cranky, as did Candy. But that's Donkey Kong Country. He did not appear in Donkey Kong Land, which was the next game in the chronology. But we have a kind of a I don't know if you still subscribe to this, but I certainly do. This weird fanon of how Funky may have contributed to the Donkey Kong Land adventure. In Donkey Kong Land, you don't have the other Kong, whether it be Donkey or Diddy, whoever's following you. You don't have them following you behind you like you do in the SNES games. This is true in the entire trilogy and in the Game Boy Color version of Donkey Kong Country. Basically, you have them as an extra hit, and if you press select, then your Kong, be it Donkey or Diddy, teleports away, and the partner Kong teleports in.
Disappears into a strange void, much like the ones that appear at the end of each stage.
Yeah. And if somebody gets hit, and then the other one comes in a tornado-like effect. They spin upwards.
Right.
And so
not a swirlwind warning effect. Don't get confused.
Right. Let's not be crazy now. We know what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. So it was my fanon back in 1995, first playing the game, that Funky Kong developed these teleporters for the Kongs, which it's a bit.
Now, did you come up with this theory before or after DKC 3?
You mean DKL3?
No, I mean, did you Donkey Kong Country? Did you come up with this theory before or after Funky Kong was established as a mechanic and inventor?
Before. No, I came up with it summer of '95, and because I already knew like Funky was responsible for the barrel plane. So, granted, it's a huge leap to go from airplane to teleport device, but when you're a kid, maybe not so much.
That's why I felt like I needed to ask. The huge logical leap, yeah.
So yeah, and I asked about Donkey Kong Land 3 because there's actually something that harkens back to it in Donkey Kong Land 3, which we'll touch upon when we get there. But yeah, that was my explanation. Okay. Funky didn't have any Funky's flights on the offshore islands of Donkey Kong Island, Kremlantis, Monkey Mountain, and Big Ape City. But
we all know the offshore islands, Hyle. You don't need to list them, okay? Don't condescend.
I'm sorry. How incredibly arrogant of me. But yeah, he wanted to help out Donkey and Diddy, and he gave them these prototype teleportation devices. Okay.
No, teleportation. You had it right.
Teleportation. Yeah. I don't want too much. I'll just take a teleportion of that meal.
Yeah. That's the best way to die at reasonable teleportation.
It just beams right out of your stomach. So, Donkey Kong Country 2, he made his second...
It's like Badger's Star Trek spec script.
That was the best. I love, like, everybody like views Breaking Bad as such a bleak show. Go back and watch it. It was a dark comedy most of the time.
No, it was a bleak show most of the time. It had occasional dark comedy moments.
Okay, but they knew how. It wasn't like The Walking Dead where it was just nihilism for the sake of it. It was definitely, it had something to say, and it broke up the darkness with a lot of laughs.
It was Vince Gilligan who wrote the best of the dramatic and the best of the comedic episodes of the X-Files. He knows what he's doing in both arenas.
Right, compared to Chris Carter, who soils himself on a regular basis.
Smears it on paper, photocopies it on red paper, and hands it out to the cast.
And Fox is like, all right, 6 more episodes. We like what we see.
Licensed to print money.
Donkey Kong Country 2. So Funky returned on Crocodile Isle, and he opened up a new branch of Funky's Flights called Funky's Flights 2, which it seems like a conflict to refer to like this new chain of airlines as a sequel to your original. Like, just call them Funky's Flights, dude. Like, what are you doing? But he opened.
Well, no, maybe he doesn't want brand confusion with his Crocodile Isle branch.
Perhaps. But yeah, he opened up a new chain of airlines on Crocodile Isle, which I like how they explain like what the Kongs are doing there on Crocodile Isle and why they can readily help you. Like, yeah, Funky opened up new airlines. Swanky is hosting a game show on Crocodile Isle. Wrinkly is trying to teach the Kremlins. The only one I kind of raised an eyebrow about is Cranky. Why does he have a series of monkey museums on Crocodile Isle? Like,
yeah, apparently
why?
There's enough of a what do you call not a user base. What do you call people? Enough patronage. I was like, what do you call it when people buy things in real life? There's enough patronage of his museums that he has a need to open like 8 of them.
Yeah, in very close proximity to one another.
In extremely hostile territory.
I'm going to open one on a ship. Why not?
Yeah. This is like going to North Korea and opening 8 American museums.
Right. We call those McDonald's.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Funky's Flights 2, he had a different barrel plane. It was a little bit sleeker. It actually looked more rickety than the original one, but what do you want? And in the Game Boy Advance version, he also had a gyrocopter, which I refer to as a gyrocopter prototype when you take into account Donkey Kong Country 3.
Yeah, because we all know that the real gyrocopter was incapable of being finished without 40 hero coins.
Right. This was just a prototype that was yellow, and it was just a rough build. He couldn't really put his funds into it quite yet. It was what it was.
It wasn't gyrocoptery enough yet.
Funky's persona in Donkey Kong Country 2 was much the same way as it was Donkey Kong Country. He was just the bodacious surfing dude. You know, you go to Funky's Flights and it's bow, 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 woo! Yeah. Incidentally, Robin Beelan did not compose that song. But if he did, I would have been a fan of his from that very song.
Oh, stop. That was a David Wise, by the way, and I love that. Like I think that even that whole the woo. I feel like that's like a reference to what Will Smith used to do in every DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince album, where he was always in the background punctuating it. Like these days in rap, you'd get like a yeah, but he would just be woo, woo.
Chad, can you do that? Can you do that again?
I cannot and I will not.
The yee, can you do that?
I will not do that again. I regretted it as it was happening.
I want to get a couple for posterity's sake, so I can blackmail you at a later date.
No.
Okay.
You're bringing the show to a screeching halt with this one.
That's okay. I control the editing. I can just pluck it from the moment it happens.
Why did it sound so much like the first one?
I'll speed it up and I'll slow it down. Nobody will ever know. That's the magic of audio editing. Donkey Kong Land 2, it was his Game Boy debut. He was back on Donkey Kong Land 2. curiously though, Funky's Flights 2 was no longer called Funky's Flights 2. It was just called Funky's Flights.
Yeah. Interesting.
Granted, it was essentially the same as Funky's Flights 2. It was just, raised from the depths of the Atlantic Ocean with the rest of Crocodile Isle. Maybe like he had to write Funky's Flights 2 off the books after Crocodile Isle was destroyed, so he couldn't refer to it as Funky's Flights 2 for tax purposes.
Oh, that makes sense. I like that. Yeah. You got to keep collecting that insurance. I'm sure there's an insurance company. Yes, on Donkey Kong Island.
I'm sure Tiny Kong works for them because we know she's a tax expert.
Yeah, I was trying to come up with some State Farm Redneck Kong thing from the farm part, but then I realized that's like a step and a half too far from the joke to make any sense.
Yeah, you could have made a Geico reference, and then you could have referenced anything because they literally have a commercial with anything in it, like cavemen, sure,
No, but like their current Geico campaign is just making a dad joke and saying, "That's not how it works in real life, Geico."
I'll take your word for it.
I don't have TV anymore, so all my ads are online ads.
Oh, okay.
And there is and you wind up seeing the same one like 3 times as you watch a TV show on Hulu or on YouTube. So.
I might have mentioned this on air. Here in Virginia, did you know that Geico sponsors our interstate rest areas?
Really?
Yeah.
Take a shit from Geico.
Every rest area, as you approach it, you see the Geico gecko on a sign that tells you Geico is sponsoring the rest area you're about to stop at.
Yeah, nothing makes me want to expel fluids from my body like seeing that gecko.
Nothing wants me to get car insurance more than seeing that Geico sponsors where I can take a urinal or get a CD hand job in the dead of night.
Wow, Virginia truck stops got it going on.
It's not a truck stop, it's a rest area. Trucks do stop there, and that's where truckers go for some action while on the road, but yeah.
They call it resting, Hyle.
Do they?
Well, it's a rest stop.
I'm not up on my trucker lingo.
Yeah, that's like a CB radio thing.
It's been a while since I've watched a Burt Reynolds movie, so I don't know.
Yep.
Hi, Saf. So Donkey Kong Country 3, though, this is what we've been building up to, because this is where Funky Kong, as we know him today, really blossomed into the full bounty of character aromas.
Yeah. So not. I'm just gonna agree with that and move on.
This lozenge is really having a weird effect on me. Let me get some
Apparently.
wheat thins, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the non-mouth orifices that you stuck those lozenges in that might be doing it. No, I think that something that should be noted about the first interaction that you have with Funky in DKC3 is the fact that Kiddy Kong's parents thought he was so trustworthy, they just dumped their toddler off at his house. And I think that he betrayed that trust almost immediately.
Yeah, because he pawned it off on Kiddy's... I don't know,
radical cousin.
Yeah, his cousin who's also a child. I was like, hey, there's Kremlins in invading the Northern Hemisphere. Have fun.
Yep. Yeah. You look like you're going on an extremely dangerous adventure. Here's a baby.
But Funky is kind of essential to the whole plot, at least from what I understand. I don't know if this is actually in any of the supplementary material, but this is the way I understood the plot in 1996. So Funky comes to the Northern Hemisphere and he opens up, like, he's flush with profits from Funky's flights. So he opens up a boat rental
from all that tax fraud from Crocodile Isle.
Right. So he opens up a boat rental shop called Funky's Rentals? Yeah, that's it. Right.
Yeah. Yep.
I almost said Funky's Boats. I was like, that is not correct.
No, actually, in DK Vinecraft, back when we were in version 1.8, before the upgrade, boats were very finicky. So I set up this special dock out off. We have a river that goes by DK Vine Town, and I made that dock specifically to hold boats without breaking them, and named it Funky's Rentals.
Ah, very nice, very nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, Funky opens up a boat shop, and Donkey and Diddy decide to go to the Northern Hemisphere on vacation to go boating Funky. Hey. And of course, they later get abducted by K. Rool and become the new Kremlin King Chaos. DKC3 had a very convoluted plot, but I love it all the same.
I don't remember that aspect of the plot.
No, but I
perhaps
assumed because Funky's... I remember reading in some supplementary material, and granted, this could have been Nintendo Power, which is...
Or it could have been DK Vine.
This is 1996.
Okay.
But it could have just been my fervent brain. But yeah, I assumed, hey, Funky just opened up this new boat rental place. I'm sure Donkey and Diddy went to the Northern Hemisphere to take advantage of it.
Right.
Just connect the dots, man. Just connect the dots.
It's all there. Yeah, you just need some push pins and twine.
It's all there. The facts are there. All right.
Yeah.
Jet fuel.
Read between the lines, sheeple.
Jet fuel can't melt steel beams.
That's what Funky's Flights 2 is all about.
What really brought down Crocodile Isle? It's an inside job.
Yeah, if you look at the Roman numeral 2 in Funky's Flights, you can see that it represents the Twin Towers.
Just like in Wingdings.
Yeah.
So yeah, Funky's boats or Funky's rentals. I have in my notes Funky's boats. Woo, that would have been a catastrophe had I gotten that wrong.
Yeah. Or if you had called attention to it for no reason.
So this is the first physical appearance of Funky the Mechanic over Funky the Surfing Dude.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, and although we do know now that he was running a fishing shop, so this is kind of it's a through line for his character. Although at the time it seemed like it was a weird departure.
I didn't seem weird to me at the time. It was like, oh, because okay, the supporting Kong cast usually change their clothing into each game. I mean, sometimes it was very subtle, but yeah, I mean, like
no, they didn't.
Yeah, they did.
No, not between the first two. That was a precedent that was only set with DKC3.
I'm pretty sure Funky had like different color sandals on.
That's a stretch. He had the sunglasses, he had the bandana, he had the surfboard. Cranky had the waistcoat. He had the canes.
All right, but look at Swanky Kong. He went from being invisible in the first game to wearing that blue jacket in the second.
That's a fair point.
And
Candy went from being partially clothed to being invisible.
Oh, I thought you were going to say she turned into Wrinkly Kong. Like she just smoked a lot of cigarettes and sat in a tanning booth all day, every day for a year.
I don't like these children. I can't stand them.
Be careful with the silly voices, Chad. You know what they do to you.
That one. You know the kind of voices that ruined me because that one did hurt a little bit. I was like wincing as I did it.
Anyway, so yeah, Funky the Mechanic and Funky's Mechanic, you know, because before this he was just wearing like the gold chain. He had swim trunks on. He had flip flops. And he had the do-rag and the sunglasses. Actually, yeah, Funky's sunglasses changed between the first and second game. He had just regular like Ray-Bans on the first game. He had like the visor in the second, and that's the purple visor has stayed the same since Donkey Kong Country 2.
Oh, and you know what? Yeah, now, by the way, we stream this chat to $5 and up patrons live as we record it, so there's no safety net. But in the chat, I'm noticing right now Cameron Regal, site staffer, who does character render dissertations on our Tumblr.
He is the expert. He is the expert. Yes, go to the Tumblr.
He's the expert. And he's supporting your cause, not only with the sunglasses, but Cranky was wearing a green vest in DKC2, whereas I believe his waistcoat was more of a grayish-brownish in the first game. So, hey, you're right. It takes a big man to admit when he's wrong, and I'm that big man.
So, Funky's... Now that I know Cameron's listening, I'm a little nervous describing what the renders look like because, he's going to call me out on any minor misstep I take. But Funky, he was like... He had a dirty wife beater on.
Yep. Because he beats his wife.
Right. That's why you never see her. No, he had a filthy, like, covered with grease, he had a wife beater. He still has the same do-rag he wore since Donkey Kong Country, and I'm sure, like, the dots don't align exactly to the do-rag in Donkey Kong Country. You see, Cameron's listening, and I'm trying to cover my ass.
No, I think the dots, if you look forward to his Payon renders, and which were repurposed, that style's repurposed in Tropical Freeze, those are different, but all through the DKCs, it seems like they use the same texture for his do-rag. do-rag.
Okay. Well, he's wearing the Donkey Kong Country 2 visor. He's wearing the Donkey Kong Country do-rag, but he's got the wife beater, and he's got jean shorts, but they're torn off. They're not. He didn't buy them as jean shorts. No. He bought them as jeans, and he decided to cut them.
Do you think maybe he just went through an anxious episode after DKC2 and became a never nude?
Oh, maybe. I don't know. I could see Funky. Like, if it was Candy, I'm sure he could get nude for Candy.
He could be one of the dozens of them.
And he's also wearing, I guess, work boots or some sort of shoes in Donkey Kong Country 3. And he's got a yellow tool belt with wrenches and hammers in it. So, he is, ready to work. And he's, in this new boat shop. He is, and he's building stuff constantly throughout the game. You're constantly having to go to him and give him things he requires to build the next upgrade of watercraft.
Patches that you acquire from giant spiders.
It's what you do in this trade, Chad. You stick up your nose at it because you're in IT in real life, but no, if you're a mechanic, you need patches from giant spiders sometimes, all right?
I'm not in IT. I'm in tech, but
whatever. It's
right.
all the same. It's all the same. You do stuff with the computer machines, and look, us in the blue collar world, we build boats. We get patches from giant spiders. It's what we do. You wouldn't know. It's a dirty job, but somebody's got to do it.
All right, Micro. What else can we say about Funky's time in DKC3
let's talk about the boats. He had the motor boat, which he would like to do to Candy, apparently. He had.
Okay.
He had the hovercraft, which was kind of a nice preview of Diddy Kong Racing. No relation, though. But I like that Rare was obsessed with hovercrafts in the mid-'90s.
Right.
Because really, where the fuck do you see hovercrafts in video games besides Rare?
Now, what is it? So, do hovercrafts in this way, do they exist? Is this basically like a Florida Everglades fan boat without the fan? Is that what a hovercraft is?
Hovercrafts do exist. I mean...
Yeah, but they're... Do they look like that? Are they just giant inner tubes? Or how do you propel them, I guess is my question.
Just look up hovercraft, man. Google it. I see hovercrafts right now. I just Googled it, and I see hovercrafts very similar to the one from Donkey Kong Country 3.
All right, fair enough.
There's a fan in the back, and it's got
Okay, so they're fan boats.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Okay.
And now thinking back to Diddy Kong Racing, if you look at the back of the hovercraft, there's a teeny tiny little fan that's usually the character's actually bigger than it. But yeah, okay, so it's a fan boat.
All right. Yeah. So, all right. So you went from the hovercraft to the turbo ski, which
that can go up waterfalls.
Goes up waterfalls. I like it. It was very, very ingenious how the DKC3 team kind of designed the map. That to progress, you had to go through funky. Say what you will about Donkey Kong Country 3 not being as good as Donkey Kong Country 2. It had a lot of great ideas how to evolve the series into something more, I don't know, mature. I don't know.
I remember being blown away by the 8-direction movement that you had on the map screen as opposed to, which is straight. I thought that was technology that shouldn't exist on the Super Nintendo,
it's witchcraft.
Which is utterly, it's completely stupid because there was so much more movement happening in every level of the game. But for some reason, the fact that it looked like a map screen, I thought that maybe there were arbitrary restrictions placed on top of it.
Yeah.
It was real. It was fun though. It was cool. It was an unexpected kind of evolution in a game that in a lot of ways sort of regressed from DKC2.
Some ways, but I mean, they have
in a lot of level design
design, but then they had things to trick the eye, like the target galleries and target throwing games, and I don't know, I'm fond of it. But so he had the turbo skis, and then if you got all the hero coins from all the coins in the game, you could get the gyrocopter, and then you could take to the sky again. Funky gives you an aircraft again.
Mm-hmm. You can get all the way to Belcha's Burrow.
Yeah, you can meet the Queen Banana Bird and get terrified the first time you go behind those clouds. It was the scariest.
Hello, Dixie.
That was the scariest thing, man. I remember I was playing it like at night, and I was like, finally got the gyrocopter, and I was flying around, and I went behind the clouds, and then the screen went black, and I was like, wow, what is happening?
Yeah, your save file was deleted.
Anyway, yeah, you don't expect to see a giant banana bird lady in the clouds.
Oh yeah, you generally expect to see a moderately sized banana bird lady in the clouds.
If it had been like 3/4 of that size, I would have been adequately prepared.
She was just unreasonably huge.
Anyway, so that is what I refer to as the final evolution of the gyrocopter he was first designing in Donkey Kong Country 2, which we didn't find out about till the Game Boy Advance version. Goddamn, this stuff is confounding sometimes when you really lay it all out. He was also
it's a wonder why our show hasn't caught on.
It's catching on, man. I ride the wave, man. I'm feeling like this is our year. This is the Kongversation's year to dominate the world.
All right.
So Funky was also neighbors with not only Wrinkly and her save cave, but also Bazaar Bear and his general store. So it's kind of assumed that Funky and Bazaar struck up a bit of a friendship during this time, because how could you not?
Is that assumed?
Well, I mean, I'm sure, when you only have 3 people to talk to on this, landmass, and one of them is Wrinkly Kong, and she's going on about exercising, you're going to want to talk to the fellow business owner, Bazaar Bear.
Well, hey, Funky is the only one of those 3 that actually had the means to go somewhere else for his company.
True, but he was always staying in his garage trying to... I mean, look how filthy he was. He's not going to... Funky is a bit metrosexual. He's not going to go out with that schmutz on his wife beater.
Where do you get metrosexual from Funky?
I just assume. I mean, he's a well-groomed man. I mean, I don't know.
Well, Green looks exactly like that. I never got that vibe from him. He always seems like more of a like a down to earth dude than.
I'm sure under his do-rag he has frosted tips. Okay. All right. No, honestly.
So he's a Tom Lennon type, you're saying?
Honestly, I'm sure Swanky Kong is the metrosexual of the Kongs. Funky is I don't know. But I don't think he would go out looking like filth. So yeah, I think he struck up a friendship with Bazaar Bear, which takes us to Donkey Kong Land 3. Funky Kong did not appear in the game.
You're just like, shut up, your objection's stupid. Continuing with my premise.
That's the way our friendship works, Chad.
Yep. I know. I've been in it for a while.
Door's right there, my friend. I'll get Nick in here so fast.
Nick's great on the show, though.
He really was. Donkey Kong Land 3, Funky did not appear, meaning his only original Game Boy appearance was DKL 2, but that's still better than Cranky Kong. So Bazaar Bear, or as Mario Wiki knows him, Bear, was in Donkey Kong Land 3, and he opened up the Sheepy Shop.
Of course, everyone knows that.
And he gave you hero coins as rewards for... Sometimes he would give you hero coins for rewards, right?
Weren't the hero coins rewards for getting the fast times, or no? Those were stopwatches.
Like you got hero coins from multiple places in the game. Like they were hidden like in Donkey Kong Country 3, but I think you also got hero coins from the Sheepy Shop.
Okay.
But anyway, our fan states that because Funky got rich off those fucking hero coins that you gave him in Donkey Kong Country 3, he and Bazaar opened up this casino called the Sheepy Shop.
I think that's faulty because, as we established earlier, those hero coins went straight into the production of the gyrocopter.
Production that we know from Donkey Kong Country 2. Like, he already had it most of the way there. He had a working prototype.
You think he was a mercenary?
What?
Do you think that he was basically holding back this technology that could easily, free the Queen Banana Bird from her shackles and defeat K. Rool once and for all for a few years? He was holding that hostage for hero coins.
I don't think he was holding it hostage. I don't think he even knew about the Queen Banana Bird. I think he just needed new upholstery for the gyrocopter and put it in some vaguely barrel-shaped outer shell. So...
Okay. So you think he's padding the cost? He's like what they make NASA do to hide the budget for Area 51.
Right. Yeah. He's a businessman. He wouldn't have opened like 12 airlines in under in like 2 years without being a little shrewd. I mean, come on. Mm-hmm. So yeah. He went into business with his good buddy Bizarre Bear, his good friend, maybe even best friend rivaling Donkey Kong, Bizarre Bear.
Wow, you're really getting entrenched in this.
I am a shipper for Funky and Bizarre Bear, not like in a homoerotic way, but I'm
Why, is there something wrong with that, Hyle?
No, absolutely not. I just think they're good bros. Like, why do we have to always make it a romantic thing when two guys like enjoy each other's company? It's like Force Awakens. Yeah, like Poe and Finn, they were great together, but why do they need to like mash their genitals together? They're good. Like, why can't guys just be friends?
Obviously, you've never heard of Yaoi Slash, Hyle. It's a very valid form of artistic expression on the internet.
I'm not besmirching the good name. I'm just saying, two men can hang out together.
This is so fun for me, just watching you try and you didn't even say anything offensive to begin with, but I put you on the defensive. just relishing this.
Yeah, I mean, I just long for the days when men could enjoy each other's company without everybody assuming they're ejaculating into one another.
No, okay.
Not that there's anything wrong. Look, that's fine if that's what they want to do, but they don't have... Anyway, where on?
Wow. Yeah, no, here, let me... Look, there's a guy in a hole. I'm gonna jump down there and help you find your way out.
I need a gyrocopter to get out of this hole, Chad.
All right, so DK64.
No, I'm not done with Donkey Kong Land 3.
You're not done with Donkey Kong Land 3?
My whole point was that Bizarre Bear, known as Bear Bear on Mario Wiki, not to be confused with Banjo's father, Bear Bear, according to Chris Alcock. Bizarre Bear,
Word of God.
You teleport out of the sheepy shop. You have that option. You can teleport around, and the teleportation effect is exactly the same as the one from Donkey Kong Land, meaning Funky lended its teleportation technology to Bizarre Bear.
So in Donkey Kong 64, Funky took an interesting turn for the violent.
Yeah, you might say he took a rightward turn in that.
Yes,
he
if you just had to pick a direction.
This is interesting because up until this point he's like a laid back surfer dude turned mechanic. 1999, I don't know, maybe it was just Millennium Madness, but he decided to become a gun nut. If you want to refer to it as such, he opened up a new a business venture called what was it called? It was just called Funky Store.
It was Funky's Armory, wasn't it?
The outside said Armory, but you went in and then the caption said Funky Store.
Ugh.
But I thought it was like
really DK64.
I thought it was like store as in like a store for like ammo.
An arms store.
Well, yeah. Maybe it was like a pun, a really really weak pun, and doesn't really amount to much, but a pun nonetheless.
Wow, you're really encapsulating the experience of playing Donkey Kong 64.
Oh, come on now. Be nice. Actually, don't be nice to it.
No, it's not a good game.
Compared to Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie and the Donkey Kong Country trilogy and Retro's Donkey Kong Country games and Donkey Kong Land 1 through 3 and King of Swing and Jungle Climber and Jungle Beat and it's still a better game than Donkey Konga 2.
Hey, that's fair. No arguments.
There we go.
No arguments here.
All right. Donkey Kong 64, the best game ever if you just play Donkey Konga 2.
Yep.
I should go back and edit my our reviews just to clarify that point. Yeah. So Funky becomes a weapons manufacturer in this game, and this still doesn't sit right with me because this does not seem true to Funky's character before or after.
And even the idle animations see him like pantomiming a machine gun.
He's fucking crazy.
And these like airplanes that come in.
Like, how do you go from laid back surfer dude to Ted Nugent? Like was it cat scratch fever?
It's honestly as if George Andreas and team were just throwing everything at the wall and seeing what stuck.
You might even say that was the George Andreas fault.
I think that this characterization of Funky is the George Andreas fault. Yes.
It's what broke apart the state of Rare's Donkey Kong. No, the only way I can rationalize it in my head, and I get the logic the Donkey Kong 64 team was going for, and it's that Funky is the mechanic. He provides the vehicles for the Kongs. Why couldn't he also just become their Q, the Q to their James Bond, and provide all of their mechanical necessities, including weapons? If they're going to use weapons, Funky could make them because he's a brilliant mechanic. And Funky's genius. It's interesting how Funky's genius. This is why I'm okay with him designing teleporters. Because it's a slow creep, a slow escalation of his talents. He goes from a simple mechanic working on airplanes to basically the professor from off of Gilligan's Island. You know, he's making
now
guns out of coconuts.
When you describe this as a slow progression,
wow,
airplane teleportation device in the space of 6 months.
Slow. When you're a kid, 6 months is an eternity, Chad.
That's true. It did feel like a long time between those games.
I did. I mean, and if my child self could be plucked into the year 2016, I'd like to see how they could cope with the lack of Donkey Kong games now.
Yeah.
But I could see Funky's not actually a gun nut. He just likes developing technology. And to be fair, it's never specified that the weapons in DK64 are lethal. They just knock people out.
They're gonna hurt.
They're not gonna shoot your fucking head off. That wasn't a lyric in the song.
Right.
Because it wouldn't rhyme. Yeah. And thankfully it wouldn't rhyme, because then the Kongs would be just cold-blooded killers instead of accidental genocidal maniacs as established in DKC2. But yeah, so this was kind of a blip in Funky's otherwise sterling character evolution. And I can fan wank it away just fine. It's just the idle animations I fucking hate, because he looks like a fucking fanatic.
Although weirdly in the ending cinema, he's wearing what looks like a bazooka on his back, but then it's revealed to be a breakdancing aid.
He's still funky at heart. I mean, he still likes to get down with his bad self.
It's for some reason his bazooka turns in it like has propeller spinning effects, and so he uses it to break dance.
It's a comedy bazooka too. I mean, it knocked K. Rool out of the boxing ring and crashed ship and out to sea, but it wasn't.
Oh yeah, it fires a giant boot. Perhaps we should mention that.
Which it should have been a boxing glove, considering it was a boxing match. That like the knockout blow is okay. Whatever. Donkey Kong 64 team, you win. You've broken my spirit. He was wearing military fatigues too in the game, and he just looked awful. He didn't even look like Funky Kong. He was wearing pink like hippie sunglasses or something. I don't know. Fucking Donkey Kong 64.
It is amazing. I think that our relationship with that game is the most interesting aspect of the fact that the DK Vine has existed for almost 17 years.
Yeah. We went from saying it's the greatest game of all time to just marginally better than Donkey Konga 2. Like, where will we be with the game 17 years from now? Like,
now that's hyperbole. That marginally better than DKC2. And I would say of the games you listed, I would put it above Jungle Beat. I know that you favor Jungle Beat much more than me. I would put it above Donkey Kong Land 2. But
I don't know. I've been replaying Donkey Kong Land 2 the last week or so. It's pretty fun. It's essentially
Is it fun?
It's like Donkey Kong Country 2, only less than.
Okay, then maybe not, because there's nothing fun about the experience of playing DK64. And if Land 2 is marginally fun, it's got it beat.
So yeah, this was just a weird blip in Funky Kong, and then Rare. Then like 3 years later, Rare was bought by Microsoft, and Funky went into temporary hibernation until.
By the way, let me circle back for a moment, because I know, like you said at the top of the show, we probably have a lot of new listeners that are probably very fond of DK64.
Oh, yeah.
these are our opinions about the game, and we understand that there is a love for it, especially if you grew up playing it. As with any game that, you get those rose-tinted glasses, not suggesting that that's what's going on with your opinion of it if you love the game.
Hey, Funky did have rose-tinted glasses in Donkey Kong 64. Maybe
he literally did.
Maybe that was just so he could, stomach the experience that he was stuck in.
He always reminded me of Mickey, the character from Natural Born Killers.
Oh yeah.
With those tiny red glasses.
Yeah.
Who was that? Woody Harrelson?
Woody Harrelson, yeah. Woody from off Cheers.
Yes. Woody from off of Cheers, who murdered who was the guy at the end of the movie that they murdered? The TV producer. Was that the guy
Larry
from
Flint.
Larry Flint? What? No, that was Woody Harrelson as well.
That was Woody Harrelson as well. I mean.
Like, he didn't murder Larry Flint in Natural Born Killers.
And he wore his skin, so yeah, he could play it in the movie about Larry Flint.
Mm-hmm. Okay, whatever.
That's good enough.
White Men Can't Jump.
Yeah, that's true. Woody's appearance in Frasier, that one episode. So, okay. We're winding down now, but the payoff.
Thank God.
Hey! This is Funky's crowning glory as far as the greater Nintendo fandom is concerned.
And I think what just happened in the last 3 minutes is emblematic of this show. I said something that was a little hyperbolic. I tried to apologize, and instead of doing that, started talking about Woody Harrelson.
To be fair, he's a great actor.
Fantastic, underrated, really. Fuck Leonardo DiCaprio. When will Woody get his Oscar?
Also, his father assassinated JFK.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, remember that? At Dealey Plaza, we had the conspiracy guy hawking the pamphlets that Woody Harrelson's father killed JFK, and
I don't remember that.
Woody Harrelson himself actually believes the conspiracy theory. So there you go.
Amazing. Just what you would expect from a level-headed guy like Woody Harrelson.
Hey, man, had the bullets been made of hemp, maybe he would have approved. Maybe. Also, Ted Cruz's father assassinated JFK, too. So the Pay-On years brought us a new permanent design for Funky Kong, as the entire Kong cast that has appeared since then. They've all had this standardized appearance because Nintendo likes keeping their characters iconic and basic, and they don't like changing them in every game. Like a child suffering from ADD.
Yeah, there's being on model, and then there's being stagnant, and Nintendo has been stagnant with its character designs for many years.
Nintendo loves to be stagnant. Yeah, this is the fundamental difference between Rare and Nintendo. Rare is changing up their characters, sometimes for the worse. See, Funky Kong, military fanatic, and Nintendo is just like, it's good enough. Let's just go with it for 30 years. So Funky, but I really like, and this really excited me back when King of Swing came out, because Funky's permanent design was essentially his Donkey Kong Country 3 design. The design that was, instead of reverting him to the surfer trope forever and ever and ever, they stuck with the character design that hinted at something more.
It's the least funky of his designs.
Right. And that's why I love it.
And that's the one they go with.
And it is very much cleaned up from the DKC3 design. For one, he actually washed his shirt. He's not in the midst of mechanicaning, which is the actual word. I looked it up.
Wait, what is this word?
Mechanicaning, when you mechanic something.
Mechanicking?
Mechanicaning.
Mechanicaning?
Look, Chad, you don't hang out at the garage like I do with the boys, and you don't work,
reading dictionaries.
You don't work on the automobile contraptions, doohickeys, what have you, whatchamacallits. You don't get your hands dirty like I do. I'm a real red-blooded American man. I like to go into the garage and work with the oils and the what you call it, the tools.
Tools.
Yeah,
I believe you're right.
So trust me when I say mechanicaning is the word you're looking for.
I'm Googling. I'm trying to look for that word right now.
No time. You still have those hovercrafts up on Google image search.
What I got instead was, did you mean mechanic engine?
Google. They work in IT like you. They want to know. I'm just saying.
Don't work in IT.
All right. So yeah, he's still got the cutoff shorts, although they're missing the fray that Rare had on the highly detailed DKC3 design. They're just kind of like, I don't know.
That will bode for a good Stark wedding.
They look like jack-o'-lantern. That's a Game of Thrones reference, right?
It is.
I was like, Iron Man didn't get married. But they look like jack-o'-lantern mouths. His new jeans fray.
Oh yeah, just jagged triangles, chevrons. I've learned that they're called because I now have drapes in that triangle shape.
I have chevrons on my Stargate. It's for all you Teal'c fans out there.
Mm. Yep. Hey, I got in the Red Wedding reference. You got in a Teal'c. I'd say that's a wash. Teal'c. Is there an apostrophe in that?
There is.
Oh, thank God.
Anyway, his belt is also like, I don't know. I don't like the design of his belt, but he's.
It looks like what goes on a pilgrim's hat.
Yep, jack-o'-lantern. He's basically just representative of all the autumn holidays.
Yeah, this is what you make out of construction paper in elementary school. It's Funky's design.
He also lost the yellow belt, and he doesn't have the work shoes anymore. He's going barefoot, which you would think he would just injure his toes at all times.
Well, I think he kept, as you said, he kept his workshop much messier than. Did you say that? I don't know if you said that.
I didn't say that.
Pretend you said that. Agree with my premise.
Okay.
Shut up.
I said that. I said that at some point.
Anyway, I think that those DKC3 work boots were because his workshop was a lot messier and he didn't want to hurt his feet.
There you go. I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
Okay. But this was the time period that he appeared as a racer in Mario Kart Wii, which is how the vast majority of the world knows him as that guy from Mario Kart.
Didn't he sound like Lil Jon from a Dave Chappelle sketch?
Can we hear your Lil Jon impression? Lil Jon. Can we hear your impression?
No.
Can we hear any impression of a famed hip hop artist?
No.
Okay. That's okay. We got the one. I'm happy with the one. I can use that now.
You're just going to cut that out and put it in there after all of those.
I will. I'm
not a monkey to dance for your amusement, Hyle.
Oh, no. Oh, God, no.
That was you. You did that.
I'm not saying anything. So, yeah, Funky carried this design. And Mark, you know what I like about Funky being in Mario Kart? You know what I like about Funky? Help me out.
I made a noise of acknowledgement. It's a bit much to get a what out of me after this episode.
All right. I like because
I'll give you an
because Funky is the Kong mechanic. Every time the Kongs have a customized cart, like the Rambi Rider or their contraptions in Double Dash, I always assumed Funky was responsible for designing them. So
that makes sense. I think because you have to ask the question: if not Funky, then whom?
If not Funky, then whom? It's not going to be Swanky Kong, that metrosexual guy. he's off hosting game shows with his frosted tips.
Yeah. Well, no, actually, he's now off running failed sideshows with his frosted tips.
Right. He's a CD sideshow asking truckers if they want to see his frosted tip,
and potentially yelling, "Welcome to bonus game."
That's micro buffer, and you know it.
I don't know. I feel like micro buffer was kind of hanging out in the top of the Crocodile Isle 2 that whole game.
Their voice is the same. Their voice is the same, Jerry.
Wait, what are you talking about? No, it's not.
In the boxing match, round... Okay, anyway.
Oh, no, you're right. That is the same. Yeah, okay. Round one. Yep. Okay. Yeah, now I'm hearing it.
I would drop the mic right now, but I think that would hurt micro buffer.
I think so, yeah. He's got googly eyes.
Anyway, yeah, so, yeah, I'm glad if any Kong... Now, granted, I want Dixie and Cranky and K. Rool in Mario Kart at some point. If we don't have a Diddy Kong Racing NX, # I still believe in Kevin Callahan. But if we have to have any Kong besides Donkey and Diddy in Mario Kart, I love that it was Funky because, if Funky's going to participate in anything, it's a motoring event, a motoring race that he designed some of the carts for. I love that. And yeah, it's accidental continuity, like having a city in the distance on an island in Donkey Konga 2, which ties in exactly to our theory where Big Ape City is in Donkey Kong Land. It's an accident, but damn it, I'll take it. It's canon. Yeah. It's canon. It's in the
canon.
game.
You can't argue.
And then Funky kind of disappeared after like the late aughts. He did not appear in Donkey Kong Country Returns, although Cranky made a small, subtle reference to him. Do you remember that?
No.
Cranky was complaining about them having to go up the island, and he said, "Too bad we don't know anyone with an airplane."
Oh, that's right. Yes. Of course.
So,
that was sort of along the lines of the "see you later, alligator," haha.
Which was just a reused line from Donkey Kong Country. But yeah, this was an original line, and I love that Retro was at least acknowledging the absurdity that Funky does exist in this universe, but he's not in our game, so we don't acknowledge that he would have an airplane. Anyway.
Yeah. It's preferable to just having him be absent.
It's
the fact.
Yeah, when you can't have a good reason, lampshade it. Mm-hmm. It's the hack writer's way out of anything. Trust me.
There you go.
Trust me. We won an Emmy off lampshading the fuck out of our series.
Oh yeah, that all of the giant exposition dump that was lightly animated in the second act of our finale was just making excuses for the weird shit from the rest of the show.
We explained why we had boom mics dropping into frame. I mean, come on. Not that we were inexperienced in any way. It was all planned. So yeah, Funky, his most recent appearance was Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, where he has a new. You want to talk about delivery? You would live in New York, where everything is delivered to you, booze and whatnot.
We know not of DiGiorno.
Funky has a new business enterprise called Funky's Flying By, where he travels the rare archipelago, hawking goods like a door-to-door salesman. Mm-hmm. And he took over for Cranky Kong, who ran a shop for you in returns. But since he was invested in the adventure of Tropical Freeze, Funky flew across the islands as you island hopped, selling you potions and squawks, I guess. But
funnily enough, not island hopping.
Yeah.
You could do that without his help because it had been established you could generally get where you want to go once returns came around.
Yeah. Funky's well aware the Kongs don't really need his services anymore, but he's anticipating that. He's staying ahead of the market. That's what a good businessman does. And
by enslaving animal buddies.
Cranky started that precedent. He was just following the market. Capitalism. Trump 2016. But I do want to point out real quick, Funky's design is much improved in Tropical Freeze. It's still essentially the same thing, but he's got furry shenanigans, and I'll be damned if furry shenanigans don't make everything better.
His jeans have a bit more detail too, and I'd say his facial structure is improved. It's not as lumpy as it was in the Payon days.
And also his facial structure has improved dramatically since his debut because he no longer is just Donkey Kong in sunglasses and a bandana.
No, he kind of still is. He's just standing upright.
Yeah, but I mean, he stands upright now, and that's a.
Oh, and they lightened his fur. His fur's a little lighter now.
Yeah, so big difference. That's
big difference.
Goes a long way, Chad. Final thoughts on Funky Kong.
Well, before final thoughts, we did actually get one call about Funky Kong from a listener.
I hope it's from Funky Kong.
Good day, lads. Scrap69 here. How's it cracking, eh? Look, congratulations, lads, on doing the Funky Kong spotlight on 420. I'm sure he'd be quite pleased and bloody stoned during this episode, so good work. And speaking of Miss Mary Jane, I've got a question about Funky Kong and his uses. So I reckon Funky Kong has got stashes of Mary Jane all over the place, all the islands, even DK Island, anywhere and everywhere, right? So my question is during the level Scorch and Torch, right? Where the bloody savannah's burning, all the trees are burning, and there's Cranky, Dixie, Diddy, and Donkey trying to navigate the burning savannah. Why the bloody hell aren't they stoned off their bloody tits, eh? Because if all that crops of Funky Kong's weed was blowing up in smoke, they'd be bloody stoned as hell. So that's a good question, I reckon. My next question is...
Oh, there's two.
Funky Kong, he's got access to engines, gunpowder, firepower, rockets, all sorts of shenanigans. My question is, lads, where the bloody hell does he get all the supplies from? You have to wonder, how does he even get the bloody fuel? It's not like it's even a natural resource. Like, how does he even fly to maybe Grunty's Industries or whatever to get all those supplies? Or is it the bloody flying surfboard shenanigans that allows him to travel to these places? I don't know. You tell me. My final question about bloody Funky Kong is vote for Barry, the parallel bird for DK Vine Hall of Fame 2016. This is the final week. This is your last opportunity. Take the chance.
You can't
vote Paddy.
Your opportunity's passed.
Yeah, he's awesome. All right, lads. Thanks for taking the call as always, and have a good one, eh? And smoke a joint for me on this great 420 episode. See you, lads.
Thank you, Scraps. To answer your first question, that's not one of... If Funky engaged in stashing his Mary Jane in random locations, Bright Savannah was just kind of a passing through situation. I think most of his stashes would be on Donkey Kong Island itself.
Yeah, you don't want to travel with it. You don't want to be like Paul McCartney and the Japanese Wings tour of 1980. I mean, that's just silly.
That would be silly to be like Paul McCartney and the Japanese Wings tour of 1980 in a game from 2014.
Look, Funky values his working relationship with Denny Lane. He doesn't want to put it in peril by packing a suitcase full of illicit drugs. You know,
right.
If Funky was even interested in stuff like that, I mean, I'm sure he loves a lozenge every now and then. Who doesn't?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's not Aaron Sorkin, though.
No, not with the mushrooms and the screenwriting, and the casual...
the screenwriting that you can't sneak onto airplanes.
And the casual misogyny in said screenwriting.
Of course, yeah.
So, okay, yeah. But anyway, where does he get the fuel? I thought you were going to go with some sort of blood diamond thing here, Scrap, so I'm actually relieved. Well, I'm
kind of disappointed.
I don't think he has a refinery or anything, but I do think that...
There's lots of crude on the island, though.
There is, and he could also, I don't know, we know there's downed airplanes in the Lost Mangroves, right? So maybe...
But they've never been there before. They're lost.
True, but I don't know. I mean, maybe, that's where they got the TVs from. So, I don't...
No. I thought that wasn't the source of their televisions. That was just indicative of the fact that TV crashes do happen.
Okay. Well, fair enough. I was going to say maybe he salvaged some fuel from those planes, but that would,
I think his notion of the floating surfboard shenanigans was more on the money, and we never really got into that, but let's just say Funky invented it.
Funky's Flights 2 was actually just a giant floating surfboard. That is actually a fact that it's not really apparent in the SNES game. It is if you look closely, but it wasn't really clarified until the Game Boy Advance remake.
Yeah, although I think that Scraps still has a decent question when it comes to getting over bodies of water, because we all know that floating surfboards don't work on water unless you have power.
So final thoughts on Funky Kong.
You son of a bitch. I don't have any final. He's a gorilla.
He's a gorilla who's a laid back dude, and he's the Q of the Kong family. So, wrapping it up, would you say, Chad, that this was a celebration of Funky's life or a condemnation of Funky's life?
Yes.
This has been
a File 2 production.
Yeah.